How's it going, everyone? Welcome back to the channel. If you guys are new, go down and subscribe before we get started. Leave a like while you're there as well. It's been about a week since I made the last video with my Bronco. Took delivery of it. I'd show you guys a little tour around the Bronco as well. But I haven't really gave you guys my thoughts about it because I just wanted to get, a week of experiencing the driving and kind of know the car a little bit before I tell you my opinions on it. But it's been about 400 or 500 miles. Before we take a step inside, because it's literally 20 degrees outside, I can't get my garage opener to work in the Bronco. And no matter what I do, I cannot get these to connect to my garage. And I'm not sure what the issue is there, but I'm sure I'll figure it out if I decide to look it up at some point. But here we are inside of my 2022 Bronco. It's really cold, like 26 degrees as it states right there. Currently has just under 500 miles. I think at this point, the break-in for the motor is over. Still gonna take it easy until it hits 1,000 miles or so. I have thoroughly enjoyed this Bronco experience so far. I'm just gonna start the video off with that. It is very similar to the FJ Cruiser. Growing up, my dad used to have a 2007 or 8 FJ Cruiser, the one before the facelift, and it was one of my favorite vehicles that he owned at that time. It was a little weird in the terms of it didn't have 4 full doors. It had like 2 doors, and then it had the half doors, which were weird. And the way I look at the Bronco is a better version of the FJ Cruiser. I know the Jeeps always did the same thing, but for some reason the Jeeps just don't have the character that the Bronco gives or the FJ Cruiser had. I don't know why. And maybe it's just because they're mass produced and they've always been there and just haven't appealed to me, but this is essentially a Jeep. Like a Wrangler and this are similar in like pretty much every way. I've driven Wranglers before. I like how the Bronco rides better than the Wranglers. You can definitely tell that this is based off the Ranger platform and not the F-150 platform. I love that compact feeling though. It's not too tight. The one thing this does very well with the Sasquatch package and having 35-inch tires is you sit on top of the road. I probably sit just as high, if not a little bit higher, than the F-150s. The only complaint I've had about the Bronco so far, other than the long wait time, is on the highway the top makes a little bit of noise. I talked about that in the second video that I made with it that I had for a couple of days. Mine also does have the headliner in it for the sound deadening, and it might have become a standard option in 22. Another downside, it's not the biggest thing, but the gas mileage. I mean, Ford says this is an eco boost. It is not very eco-friendly. It gets like 17, 18, 19 miles to the gallon, and in the winter I'm sure it's going to get much less. Not really my favorite motors in the world either in terms of reliability. We'll see more about that in the future, if you know what I'm saying. Another downside, this thing has heated steering wheel and heated seats. For some reason, in a $60,000 plus, or I guess currently an $80,000 SUV or truck, there aren't cooled seats. My Mustang had a sticker price of $15,000 less. The Mustang is still a Ford product. The Mustang is, is still built by the same company, right? And it has cooled seats. For some reason, the Bronco isn't offered with cooled seats. Now, I understand it's an off-road SUV. It's made to go off-road. It's made to be rugged, whatnot. I got leather seats. I have heated steering wheel. I have a massive touchscreen display. You really didn't think to add cooled seats in the car or ventilated seats in the Bronco? The Mustang's built to be a sports car. The Bronco's built to be an off-roader. The Mustang still has cooled seats. Nah, it's not really that big of a deal, but it's definitely a kind of gripe that I had even before I knew mine was coming. This thing is a tank though. Like, it goes over everything without any problems. You can tell, right, that this thing is made to be taken off-road, and I cannot wait to get the front PPF'd and get some window tints on here and to take this thing off-road. Get some PPF on the front and go take this thing. The first place I'm gonna go is we're gonna probably go to the dunes, go dune bashing a little bit, and that's gonna be a really fun time. Probably gonna be after the winter. Maybe hit up a winter trail or something like that. I'm not sure around here what's really available because I've never had a truck to off-road with. I've never really looked into it, and now I do, so we're gonna look into it. Speaking of FJ Cruisers, there's one right there. You don't really see those too often, and they're really expensive nowadays. Like $30,000 expensive. Now I haven't pushed this thing too hard, but here's a little mild acceleration. This thing pulls. Like, I'm not gonna lie, this thing pulls, and yeah, I didn't really expect that. The first Bronco I was ever in was a 4-cylinder. The first and only other than this one was a 4-cylinder. Very underwhelming motor. I don't particularly like the EcoBoost because of the reliability aspect, but as far as like when it performs, which is for the most part in a new motor all the time, it has a pretty good kick to it, I'm not gonna lie. You can hear the turbo spooling as well. Maybe a blow-off valve is in order. I don't know if that boy's warranty or not, but it'd be pretty interesting. The EcoBoosts aren't too bad. One thing I will say before we step out and tell you whether it's worth waiting for or not is when it comes to the recalls, anyone who ever wants to hate on these things will just bring up recalls. It's a new vehicle. It's gonna have things go wrong with the top. It's gonna have certain things go wrong with the motors. These motors are not grenading themselves, unlike the news and the media and the haters of Ford are gonna say, right? The motors that were having some issues were over a year ago. They fixed all of them. They're all under warranty. Yes, there's gonna be some issues with a new car. It's now the second model year. They have a lot of the things taken care of. The recalls are gonna happen. A recall is not that big of a deal. So what if a recall happens in the software? What do? You go to the Ford dealership, you get the recall done for free, and you know, maybe get an oil change at the same time. All I see in my comments when I talk about comparing this to other cars is, but the Jeep hasn't had recalls. Like, bro, get over yourself. New vehicles have weird things happening. There has never been a vehicle that has come into the market that hasn't had any issues. Some of the cars are gonna experience issues. Now we've got like a year and a half into production. Ford has started to take care of a lot of those things. I'm gonna stand out here in the freezing cold. Is it worth to buy a new Bronco? Are these things worth it? Are they worth the wait? Absolutely. This is one of the best vehicles, best truck SUVs I have driven. I enjoy it more than the Jeeps. The Jeeps are great, but I like the Bronco better. My Bronco is currently all muddy, all disgusting, because it's not very pleasant out here in Wisconsin. If you're thinking about ordering one, the orders are probably gonna come out a little faster now. I would say you're about 12 months out, even still, which is a long time to wait. In about 8 months or so, the market on these is probably gonna fall. So if you wanna buy a used one, you're still gonna pay near sticker price, but you're not gonna be paying like $80,000 for a spec like this. This is an $80,000 truck right now. That's about $20,000 over what the MSRP is. Of course, I paid MSRP, but right now, if I was to sell this as a used secondary vehicle, it's about an $80,000 vehicle, which is absolutely insane to think about. On that note, is anyone interested in buying a Bronco? I could use an extra 20 grand. No, I'm absolutely kidding, but it's always a thought that comes into your head when you can make 20 grand and enjoy a vehicle for a couple of months and then flip it. That's all I have for this video, though. Leave a like, subscribe to the channel.